In the year 356 BC, in the ancient city of Pella in Macedonia, a child was born who would one day change the course of history. His name was Alexander, the son of King Philip II, a powerful ruler and brilliant military commander. No one could have imagined that this young boy would grow into one of the greatest conquerors the world had ever seen. From a very early age, Alexander was different. He was curious, fearless, and full of ambition. His father wanted him to become not just a king, but a leader capable of ruling the world. To prepare him, Philip chose one of the greatest minds of the time to be his teacher, the famous philosopher Aristotle. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander learned about science, medicine, philosophy, literature, and geography. But more importantly, he developed a deep desire to explore the unknown and achieve greatness. One of the earliest stories that revealed his bold personality happened when he was still a boy. A wild horse named Bucephalus was brought to the royal court. Men tried and failed, and the horse seemed impossible to control. But young Alexander noticed something others didn't. The horse was afraid of its own shadow. He turned the horse toward the sun, calmed it, and climbed onto its back. From that day on, Bucephalus became his loyal companion in battle. His father, amazed, is said to have told him, "My son, you must find a kingdom big enough for your ambitions. Macedonia is too small for you." At the age of just 20, Alexander's life changed forever. His father, King Philip II, was assassinated, and suddenly the young prince became the king of Macedonia. Many people believed he was too young and inexperienced to rule. Greek cities began to rebel, hoping to break free from Macedonian control. But Alexander acted quickly and decisively. He crushed the rebellions and united Greece under his command. He proved that despite his age, he was strong, fearless, and ready to lead. But Alexander did not want to be just a king. He wanted to become a legend. At that time, the greatest empire in the world was the Persian Empire, ruled by King Darius III. It was vast, powerful, and rich. Alexander saw it as his destiny to conquer it. In 334 BC, he began his campaign, crossing into Asia with an army of around 40,000 soldiers. It was the beginning of one of the most incredible military journeys in history. His first major victory came at the Battle of the Granicus River. Against all odds, Alexander led his troops across the river and defeated the Persian forces. It was a bold and risky move, but it showed his courage and strategic genius. Soon after came one of his most famous battles, the Battle of Issus in 333 BC. There, Alexander faced King Darius III himself. Even though the Persian army was much larger, Alexander's tactics and leadership led to a stunning victory. Darius fled the battlefield, leaving behind his family and treasures. This victory marked the beginning of the fall of the Persian Empire. Alexander continued his march south into Egypt, where he was welcomed not as a conqueror but as a liberator. The Egyptians believed he was a divine figure. There he founded a city that would become one of the most important centers of knowledge in the ancient world, Alexandria. This city would later become famous for its great library and lighthouse. But Alexander was not finished. Deeper into the heart of Persia. In 331 BC, he faced Darius once again at the Battle of Gaugamela. This battle would decide the fate of the Persian Empire. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander used brilliant tactics and fearless attacks to defeat the Persian army. Darius fled once more, and this time his empire collapsed. Alexander had conquered the greatest kingdom on earth. From that moment on, he was no longer just the king of Macedonia. He became the ruler of a vast empire that stretched from Greece to Egypt and across Persia. But Alexander's ambition had no limits. He pushed further east through deserts, mountains, and unknown lands. His army followed him through Central Asia and into India. The journey was long and dangerous. They fought fierce battles, faced harsh weather, and traveled thousands of miles away from home. In India, Alexander faced one of his toughest battles against King Porus. Even after winning, Alexander was impressed by Porus's bravery and allowed him to remain a ruler. This showed another side of Alexander, a leader who respected courage even in his enemies. However, after years of fighting and traveling, his soldiers grew tired. They had marched for over a decade and wanted to return home. When they reached the edge of India, they refused to go any further. For the first time, Alexander had to listen. On the long journey home, the army suffered greatly. Many soldiers died from hunger, exhaustion, and harsh conditions. Even Alexander himself was wounded several times during his campaigns. Yet he never stopped leading from the front. In 323 BC, after years of conquest, Alexander arrived in the city of Babylon. He was only 32 years old, but he had already built one of the largest empires in history. His dream was not finished. He was planning new campaigns, new cities, and new adventures. But suddenly he fell ill. After days of high fever and weakness, Alexander the Great died. The cause of his death remains a mystery to this day. Some believe it was disease. Others think it was poison. But the truth is still unknown. When he died, he left behind no clear successor. It is said that when asked who should inherit his empire, he replied, "To the strongest." Soon after, his generals began fighting among themselves, and the empire he built was divided. Yet even though his empire did not last, his legacy lived on. Alexander changed the world. He spread Greek culture, language, and ideas across 3 continents. Cities he founded became centers of learning, trade, and culture. The period that followed his conquests became known as the Hellenistic Age, a time when East and West mixed in ways never seen before. Today, more than 2,000 years later, the name Alexander the Great still echoes through history. He was a fearless warrior, a brilliant strategist, and a man driven by a dream of greatness. He lived fast, conquered vast lands, and died young. But his story became one of the most legendary tales the world has ever known.